I don't know about you, but where I live in Brazil, I see a lot of people moving to Europe, and I know that what they are looking for is that nice European lifestyle we all have in mind. But you see, that Europe we all have in mind is the old Europe, which is done. Now, the game is completely different, and I'm of the opinion that in my lifetime I will still witness the fall of the European Union. And the main reason for that will be financial. So today we will talk about how the European Union might start cracking as a result of the current German economic crisis. So, first thing to understand. The European Union is a big structure which needs a lot of funding to be maintained. And guess who is the economic backbone of the structure? Germany. As we see in this image, the Germans are by far the biggest financial contributors of the EU. But the problem is that Germany is not on its best moment. You see, since the end of the Cold War, Germany has become one of the biggest economies in the world, mainly driven by the automotive sector, as we see here. It's no secret that German cars are among the most desired out there, and over the last 2 decades, Germany became the world's biggest car exporter. However, this changed with China's rise, which is flooding the streets worldwide with its electric cars. Moreover, Germany's situation changed drastically with the war in Ukraine. You see, one of the secrets behind Germany's success over the last 2 decades was the cheap energy imported from Russia. After all, making cars and machinery requires a lot of energy, and the cheaper the better. But as you can imagine, that all changed with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And as a result, energy prices in Germany skyrocketed, which has been terrible for the industry, making Germany a less attractive industrial hub. On top of that, bureaucracy and high taxes are driving away innovation and competitiveness. And we didn't even mention the population problem. The German population is aging really fast. And as there are simply not enough newborns, this means that the German population is shrinking, which of course is not economically positive. After all, an aging population represents less consumption, less innovation, and less workforce. So that's why Germany's future looks so gloomy. In fact, for the last 2 years, the German economy has been contracting, as we see here, with its capacity utilization at a very low level, which suggests that businesses are hesitant to invest in production due to weak expectations. But okay, I think you've already understood that Germany's economy is not doing well. But how might that start cracking the Eurozone? You see, for many countries like Portugal, Italy, and Spain, joining the European Union was like getting rich overnight, because suddenly these countries got access to super cheap financing. After all, since they are part of the Eurozone, since they are playing on Germany's team, that meant they could borrow money at really low interest rates, almost like Germany. After all, there's this understanding that if something goes wrong in the Eurozone, Germany will step in as the guarantor. That's why Italy, for instance, which historically hasn't been the most responsible country with its finances, can get loans at rates that are usually reserved for a country like Germany. The problem is that if on one hand, having access to low interest rates was a blessing, on the other, it also became a curse. After all, letting fiscally responsible countries join the Eurozone was like giving a credit card with no limit to an impulsive teenager who knows nothing about finances. That's why if you look at the debt to GDP ratio of several Eurozone countries, you see bizarre things like Italy with a debt to GDP at 136%, or Spain with a debt to GDP at 105%. If it weren't for the extremely low interest rates, these countries wouldn't have been able to accumulate such giant debts. Now, if you have a lot of debt and interest rates are low or close to zero, you don't really have much problems. The nightmare starts when interest rates begin to rise. After all, since you are super leveraged, even a small increase in interest rates makes your debt payments skyrocket. And right now, the EU is so in debt and so leveraged that it just can handle high interest rates for too long. If interest rates stayed too high for too long, a lot of European countries simply wouldn't be able to bear this financial burden. So now that you understand that the European Union is highly leveraged and that this was only possible due to low interest rates, which in turn were only possible because of Germany's economic strength, now it's time for us to talk again about Germany. Now, if the loans were made to these countries, Italy, Greece, Spain, Portugal, with the German economy as a kind of guarantee, what happens if the German economy starts to get weaker? Well, then this could mean that interest rates in the Eurozone might become structurally higher. After all, the higher the risk, the higher the return must be, right? If Germany enters a serious recession or even a depression, do you agree that its economy would become less strong? In other words, weaker. And by the way, now the Germans are even discussing to ease off the debt brake. The problem is that this debt brake is precisely one of the key factors that make Germany's debt very safe. In other words, this debt brake is partially why Germany has access to very low interest rates. If this mechanism is abolished or weakened, Germany will start to take on more debt. So then, wouldn't you agree that Germany's debt would become less secure, or in other words, riskier? So that's why I say that interest rates in the Eurozone could become structurally higher, because Germany is ceasing to be the economic fortress it has been for decades. The problem is that European countries are so deep in debt, so leveraged, that structurally higher interest rates could break them in the long run. So then we could have a second euro crisis, with the eurozone starting to break apart. After all, when economic conditions tighten, social tensions rise, and more extreme proposals, more radical ideas begin to emerge. If European countries once again faced the risk of collapse, this would certainly fuel serious discussions about leaving the EU everywhere. And that's where Europe could start a crack. Anyway, that's it for today, and see you next time.